She missed the last train home. Then a Hells Angels biker stopped and said, "You're safe now." The last train whistle faded into the night like a memory that refused to let go. The small-town station echoed with flickering lights and the thin, unkind hum of winter wind. On a wooden bench beneath a clock that blinked 11:47 p.m., sat a woman who looked like she had outrun everything but time. Before we roll, tell us where you're watching from, and type these 4 words in the comments. Real angels still ride. If this story moves you, please subscribe to our channel, Voices of Darkness. Your support helps us hit 1,000 subscribers. Like, share with a friend who needs hope, and if you love the Hells Angels and what they stand for here, prove your love by sharing this video now. Her name was Anna Brooks, 29, clutching a ticket folded so many times it had learned the shape of her hand. She wasn't lost, just left behind again. The final train had come and gone. The next wouldn't arrive until morning. Her phone was dead. The payphone by the gate was a relic and a lie. Somewhere nearby, the highway shrugged off another set of headlights and let them pass. No one stopped. One night, she whispered to herself, "You've handled worse." A low growl threaded through the quiet, deeper than the wind, older than the dark. A single headlight carved a path into the empty lot, slow, deliberate, like it belonged to a person who never hurried for anyone. Chrome breathed under a sputtering street lamp. The bike idled, then stilled. The rider dismounted. He was a big man in a leather jacket dusted with road grit. He took off his helmet, and the station lights found a face carved by sun and wind, years stacked quietly behind his eyes. Late 30s, maybe early 40s. "Tired, but not broken. You stranded?" he asked, voice low and gravel smooth, like a road that learned patience the hard way. Anna swallowed. "Missed the last train." He nodded as if that explained the whole human condition. "Figures. Station closes soon. You got somewhere to go?" She hesitated. "No, just waiting till morning." "Not a good idea," he said, glancing toward the black ribbon of highway. "A lot crawls out after midnight that doesn't have your best interest at heart." He reached into a saddlebag, twisted the top off a thermos, and poured steaming coffee into the metal cap. "You look cold." "It ain't poisoned." Her fingers brushed his glove when she took it. The heat came like sunrise. "Thank you." "Jaxon Maddox," he said, as if offering a hand without lifting one. "Ride with the Angels out of Bakersfield." She risked a small smile. "Anna. Nice to meet you. Anna who missed the last train," he said. The desert dry humor landing soft in the night. For a moment, the world narrowed to coffee steam and the clean, exact sound of a wind that had nothing left to say. "So," he asked, leaning against the bike, "what's your story?" "Came to see someone who doesn't exist anymore," she said. He tilted his head. "Dead?" "Not exactly, just gone." Her voice cracked and she looked away. Jaxon didn't fill the silence with advice. He let it breathe. When she finally looked back, expecting judgment, she found recognition instead. "I've been there," he said. "Different road. Same dead end. Headlights slid across the lot and turned mean. A truck rolled to a stop, taillights throbbing like a slow pulse. 2 men stepped out, laughter slicing the cold. "Hey, sweetheart," one called. "You need a ride?" Anna tightened her grip on the cup. Jaxon didn't move. His stance didn't change, but the night leaned toward him. "She's already got one," he said. "You some kind of tough guy?" the taller one asked. Jaxon zipped his jacket a little higher, just enough for the red and white back patch to emerge under the streetlight. Hells Angels. The skull with wings looked almost ceremonial in the shiver of light. Recognition moved across the men's faces like a shadow thrown by a train. Tough talk evaporated. "No trouble," one muttered, backing away. They got in the truck. The engine coughed. Taillights shrank and disappeared. Jaxon watched the road until the dark took it back, then looked at Anna like nothing had happened. "Told you. Not a good place to wait alone." "You didn't even touch them," she said, hands shaking from fear or relief. She couldn't tell which, didn't have to. People talk tough until they see the patch. Then they remember their manners. He swung a leg over the bike, then paused. "I got a garage up the hill. Warm, dry, safe. You can crash there until morning. I'll take first watch." She'd been taught all her life not to trust strangers. But strangers didn't stand between you and danger for free. Strangers didn't offer coffee and quiet. She met his eyes, saw the truth sitting there without dramatics, and nodded. "Okay, climb on, darling," Jaxon said. "Let's get you home safe." The Harley woke the night with a controlled roar. Anna hesitated, then swung up behind him, hands settling at the sides of his jacket. The leather was cold, then familiar, like armor that remembered how to protect. The road unwound ahead, dark motels blinking like exhausted eyelids, gas stations posing as lighthouses, hills crouched in thought. Jaxon rode like a man who had nothing to prove. Every turn was a promise. They pulled into a line of weary garages off an empty stretch of road. A neon sign sputtered over one bay, Maddox Motors. Inside, the place smelled like oil and steel and coffee, perfume for the honest. Tools hung in neat workers' rows. A space heater hissed beside a couch that had done more good than it looked capable of. Photographs pinned to a corkboard watched over the place with stubborn memory. Jaxon poured her another coffee, handed her a wool blanket that carried the faint, clean scent of rain-dried leather, and nodded at the couch. "Sit, I'll turn up the heat." 20 years with the Angels? She asked, eyes scanning the framed patches on the wall. "Give or take," he said. Before that, just a kid who thought engines were louder than silence. And now? He smiled without showing teeth. "Now I fix what the world breaks. Keep my brothers safe. Sometimes make sure strangers don't freeze waiting on a train that ain't coming." "It sounds noble," she said. "It ain't noble," he replied, striking a match and letting it die without lighting the cigarette. "Just honest. Folks see the patch and think outlaw. Truth is, we've pulled more wrecked cars off highways than half the tow trucks in this state. They ate chili from mismatched bowls at a scarred workbench, steam fogging the overhead lamp." "Why are you helping me?" she asked. "Because somebody once stopped for me," he said. Name was Rex. Old angel with hands like fence posts and a voice like church bells at dusk. Picked me off a desert road when I was 18, half lost, half drunk, and fully stupid. He didn't ask questions, just said, "You're safe now, kid." The heater popped. Somewhere outside, the highway sighed and the world shifted its weight. Anna fell asleep to the quiet metronome of a man who had found a reason to stay awake. When she woke, coffee had already learned her name. Morning slid through the garage windows like polite gold. Jaxon stood in the doorway with a mug, watching the road like a shepherd. "You slept like someone under a roof that doesn't leak," he said. "I did." She wrapped the blanket tighter. Daylight changed everything. The lot had tire scars like brushstrokes. The bike looked like a promise fulfilled. "You can catch the 10:30 from Ridge Station," he said. 30 minutes north. "I'll get you there." "You don't have to." "I know," he said. And that was that. Her eyes found a framed photograph near the tool chest. A ring of brothers in red and white. Arms thrown over shoulders, smiles tired and alive. "These your guys?" "Yeah. Bishop's the big fellow with the silver in his beard. Ryan with the knuckles like railroad spikes. Marcus Granite, they called him. 2 of them are gone now. Crashes. Another. Cancer. We buried him with his vest on." Anna looked at the edges of his face where grief had left faint fingerprints. "Most people think bikers are all noise and trouble," he chuckled. "Most folks only hear engines, not the stories riding them. A rumble rose in the distance, low, harmonious, familiar. Harleys. The garage air tilted, then steadied. 4 bikes rolled into the lot, sunlight sparking off chrome like restless stars. The lead rider killed his engine and pulled his helmet free. "Morning," he said with a grin made for bad weather. "Heard Jaxon picked up a stray?" Anna flushed. Jaxon smirked. "Something like that." "Name's Bishop," the man said, sticking out a hand. "President Bakersfield chapter. Any friend of Jackson's is family for the day." Another rider, young, tattooed to his wrists with roses and road maps, handed her a paper bag. "Breakfast. We brought the good donuts." "Don't tell my doctor," Anna laughed. "You're nicer than the stories." "Don't ruin our brand," Jaxon said, deadpan. Laughter clipped neat through the morning. They tuned bikes and talked the quiet way men who trust each other talk. No show, just shorthand and faith. Anna watched the choreography, the pass of a wrench, the glance that doubled as a paragraph, the way each man knew the other's ghosts by the shape of his silence. "Ready?" Jaxon asked at last, handing her a matte black helmet softened by years and miles. The faded insignia on the side felt like a benediction. They escorted her to the station like knights in denim and steel. Engines purred in convoy, a moving cathedral whose hymn was thunder. Cars gave way. Strangers stared. When they pulled up, Jaxon helped her dismount. The platform clocks counted time up instead of down. "I don't know how to thank you," she said. You already did, he replied. You believed we weren't what people said we were. A whistle braided through the air. The train shouldered into view, patient and inevitable. Jaxon tapped 2 fingers to his temple. Biker salute. A promise and a boundary. You take care of yourself, Anna Brooks. You too. Jaxon Maddox. The Angel's engines answered the whistle with a farewell chord. Steel on steel. Road on road. She pressed her palm to the window as the train pulled away and watched them shrink into light. Sometimes the world doesn't send angels with wings. Sometimes it sends them on 2 wheels. Weeks later, life resumed its old tricks. Email, stairs that creaked only when you were already late, a city that spoke in elevator chimes. But something in Anna had shifted. Distant engines no longer raised her guard. They raised a kind of homesick gratitude. One afternoon, a forgotten local paper lay folded on a cafe counter. A headline matched the pulse in her chest. Hell's Angels save family from highway fire. A photo caught Jaxon between flame and sky, soot charcoaling his jaw, eyes narrowed against heat. The caption said they were first on scene. Pulled 2 kids and their mother from a car before the fire trucks arrived. She stared until the words learned the shape of her tears. That night, at her kitchen table, she wrote a letter with ink that smudged when her heart leaned too close. Jaxon, thank you for that night, the train I missed and the road you offered instead. Thank you for being the kind of man who stops. The article, what you did on the highway, didn't surprise me. But it reminded me that courage doesn't always shout. Sometimes it just shows up. If this finds you, know you changed how I see the world. Anna She addressed it to Maddox Motors, Ridge Highway, sealed it, and trusted the road to find its own. A month later, the neighborhood trembled. Engines echoed off apartment brick, a thunder that made curtains twitch. Anna stepped onto her porch and found 5 angels lined up like an old promise renewed. Jaxon stood in the center, helmet under his arm, quiet as always. You wrote a letter, he said. You got it? Every word. He tilted his head toward the others. They wanted to meet the woman who made me look like a hero in print. Bishop grinned. Don't tell him that. He'll start billing us for moral support. Jaxon stepped forward and placed a small weight in her palm, a silver keychain. A winged skull etched above 3 words. You're safe now. I can't take this, she said. You already earned it, he replied. It's not a gift. It's a reminder. After they left, the keychain lay on her table, humming with meaning. In the days that followed, she began showing up at charity rides with boxed coffee and paper cups. She learned names that sounded like roads: Gravel, Shorty, Saint, Fox. She helped Bishop's wife tally donations for a veterans fund. She stood at a folding table and watched kids climb onto bikes for photos, their fathers standing further back than their fear. She saw the way the town shifted, how suspicion made room for curiosity, then for respect. One evening she pulled into Maddox Motors as the sun peeled gold off the hills. A mural now covered the garage wall, a lone biker stopping for a woman by an abandoned station, moonlight pooling at their feet, a train fading into the distance like a forgiven mistake. Underneath, in bold block script, kindness rides farther than fear. Jaxon caught her staring. Thought we should tell the truth about that night. You turned a missed train into a second chance, she said. Sometimes the road decides who we meet, he answered. All we gotta do is stop long enough to listen. He tossed her a half helmet with a dusty visor. You ever ride? On the back, she said. Never. You know, you will, he said. Not today, but soon. They ate in the garage that night. Burgers balanced on a fender. Pickles that could fight back. A radio somewhere far away found a Tom Petty song and decided it would do. You ever gonna light that? She asked, nodding to the unlit cigarette he always fidgeted with. One day, he said, when I got nothing left to fix. Everything breaks eventually. Some things just need someone to care whether they do. He looked like a man who had learned to carry regret without letting it pull him under. Later, under a sky perforated by stars stubborn enough to shine near city glow, they stood outside the bay door. The night finished one thought and began another. Rex died 10 years back, Jaxon said, as if answering a question she hadn't asked. Cancer. We put him in the ground with his vest and his boots on. Sometimes I still hear him at my shoulder when I'm about to make the wrong kind of left. Does it help? Every time. Anna learns to ride. A Saturday a few weeks later, the lot behind the garage turned into a classroom. Bikes lined up like patient horses. Bishop, Gravel, and Fox over by the tool cart, telling lies the truth could live inside. "This is Grace," Jaxon said, patting the tank of a softened, scarred Sportster the color of well-loved midnight. "She's forgiving. Unlike me when someone puts sugar in my coffee." Anna circled the bike, fingers hovering but not touching, like someone admiring a painting from a respectful distance. "It's beautiful." He corrected. "Always she." He taught her the stance first. Feet planted, knees easy, shoulders where they belong when you're not trying to impress anyone. He showed her the clutch like it was a secret handshake, the throttle like it was an oath. He walked her through neutral like it was a place you could live in while you figured out where you belonged. The first ignition felt like waking a sleeping thing that had chosen to trust her. "Ease out," he said. "Ease in. The road's a dance, not a fight." She stalled. She apologized to the air and to every saint of momentum. The second try bucked. The third kissed forward. The fourth, steady. She went 10 feet and felt her pulse forget fear's name. She came back grinning so hard it added a year to her life. Bishop clapped. "She's got it." Jaxon hit a smile and failed. "We'll get you up to second gear tomorrow. Today we celebrate survival." Afterward, they sat on the low curb by the mural, helmets between their knees. Her hand smelled like gas and joy. The keychain in her pocket had warmed to the truth. "What did you almost do?" she asked without looking at him. "What do you mean?" "Earlier, when I looped the turn too wide. You went quiet in a very specific way, like you were standing at the edge of an old memory you didn't want to fall into." He looked at the hills that pretended to be mountains. "Ryan," he said, "taught him to ride when he was 19. Cocky in a way that felt like sunlight. He took a corner too hard one night trying to impress a girl who thought danger was a personality trait. He never saw the gravel patch. Went down, I was 2 bikes back. We got him airlifted. He lived for a while. Some prices you pay in installments." "I'm sorry," she said. "Me too." Not for him, he'd tell me to cut it out. For the version of me that thought speed could fix what patience was built for. They stood when the evening cooled and the lamps came on. The mural glowed. Engines somewhere in the valley translated someone else's story into motion. "Tomorrow," he said. "We try again." "Tomorrow," she echoed. The brothers ride. The angels kept a ritual for the ones who didn't make it. The memorial ride. They gathered under sky as clean as bone, patches catching the light like blood remembered. Each name was read, each engine revved once, a roll call thunder for the dead. People came out of diners to hold their hats. Children lifted small hands in a salute they didn't fully understand. "Ride with us," Jaxon told Anna, handing her the spare helmet. "In the convoy, middle stack. You'll be safe. You'll feel what we mean when we say Brotherhood." They moved as one, long and certain, across the ridge, past the church where a pastor with grease under his nails blessed them from the steps. Down the straightaway where Granite used to open the throttle and grin back at the world as if daring it to try again. The ride ended on a hill that wore the town like a necklace. Bishop spoke without a mic, and everyone heard him anyway. "We don't promise to live forever. We promise to live like we meant it. We promise to stop when we see someone alone in the cold. We promise to come when a brother calls. Remember them not for their engines, but for their hands." When the helmets came off and the world resumed, Anna realized her cheeks were wet. Jaxon offered a folded handkerchief that had lived in his vest pocket long enough to understand grief. "You did good," he said. "So did you," she whispered. "You always do." He almost said something else, then changed his mind. Sometimes the kindest thing you can give a moment is space. A dark turn months later, the town wore autumn like it belonged to it. The mural weathered into itself. The garage stayed busy. Trust is good for business. Then the wrong kind of men took an interest. A developer with a smile that had never reached his eyes decided the block would look better as condos. He started buying single lots around Maddox Motors, calling it revitalization, which is the word some men use when they mean erasure. Jaxon listened to the pitch in the office under the watch of a wall calendar that hadn't learned to lie. "We'll relocate you," the man said, spreading glossy renderings like confetti that thought it was snow. "Imagine a modern space, brighter, cleaner, less." "History. History's the point," Jaxon said, not unkindly. "Sentiment is expensive," the man replied. "Progress pays." Jaxon turned down the deal. The man smiled like he'd won anyway. The letters came. Notices, offers, warnings disguised as favors. One night, a rock sailed through the office window and wore a note wrapped around it like a scarf. Sell while you can. Anna found the glass at dawn and swept it up in a calm that wouldn't break. The brothers showed up wordless, like the sky does. Bishop stood in the ruined office and read the air. "We can fight in court," he said. "Yeah," Jaxon said, looking at the mural through the missing pane. "And we can fight like we always do, with a wrench in one hand and a coffee in the other." The town had learned something over the months. When you needed help, you looked for red and white. Signatures piled up. The diner posted a handwritten sign. "No condos. We like our angels loud." The pastor wrote a letter to the paper under a headline no copy editor would dare change. "Leave the garage alone. It fixes more than engines." The city council discovered what happens when a community remembers what it owes itself. The night before the vote, someone tried fire. A red tongue licked up the back wall by the oil drums. Gravel smelled it first, sprinted with an extinguisher, swore so creatively the flames blushed and backed off. The mural took heat, but held. Jaxon stood in the smoke, face set like he'd just found the limit of his patience. He called the sheriff himself because that's what men do when they have nothing to hide. When the report was filed and the sirens had made their point, the brothers set a watch. They parked the bikes in a ring around the building and let the engines cool like embers. Anna sat on the curb with Jaxon and a thermos between them. "You could walk away," she said softly. "Start fresh somewhere else." "So could you," he said. "I did once," she replied. "Didn't like the person I met when I got there." He nodded. "We stay then. We stay." The council voted in a little room too small for how many hearts packed into it. The measure failed. The developer's smile cracked. The town clapped like thunder. That night, the garage hosted a cookout that felt like a coronation. Kids drew chalk bikes on the pavement. A band that practiced in someone's laundry room found a groove that sounded like how a good day ends. The mural, smoke-scarred and proud, looked almost new under string lights. Jaxon threaded through the crowd with 2 paper plates loaded with things that might eventually be called food. He handed one to Anna and tapped the mural with his knuckles. "You were right," he said. "Missed trains. Second chances. You were right first," she said. "Stop long enough to listen." The fire and the river storms rolled in that winter like men who meant business. The river that usually remembered its place forgot. One night the scanner in the garage office crackled a call-out that snapped every breath to attention. Minivan stranded in floodwater. Child inside. They didn't wait for anyone else to be brave. Jaxon, Bishop, Fox, and Gravel launched like they'd been lit. The road disappeared into rain. They rode it anyway. At the bridge, the river wore the road like a borrowed coat. A minivan sat half-swallowed, its hood bobbing like a thing that had learned regret. A woman stood on a concrete barrier screaming the child's name into wind. "Ropes!" Bishop barked. Gravel was already tying knots. Fox stripped to boots and faith. Jaxon crawled out on the guideline like a man arguing with a storm. Water slammed him like grief. He kept going. The van's rear window had stubbornness, but no chance. Fox shattered it with a spring-loaded punch. A boy's face appeared in the opening, 8, maybe 9, eyes wide as sirens. "Got you," Jaxon said, the word simple as a prayer. He took the kid into his arms, felt the small body shake, and thought of every time Rex had stood between him and dark. They passed the child back along the line, hand to hand, brother to brother, to a mother who fell apart in relief and rebuilt herself in the same breath. First responders arrived, flashing light on the rain until the river looked like electricity. The angels stood aside, shivering and quiet, the way men do when the job is stranger than their own legend. Later, when the county printed the photo that would hang on a few walls, it captured Jaxon midstream, eyes narrowed, mouth set. The boy clutched against him. The caption said a lot. It didn't say everything. The letter of the road spring found the ridgeline softening like a scar, deciding it had done enough work. The garage's calendar declared itself content with being right about the month. Anna delivered coffee more often than the city needed her to. Sometimes she stayed late and closed with them, learning the liturgy of wrenches and torque, the reverence of a clean shop floor. One afternoon, she sat at the workbench with a stack of flyers for a charity ride, funds for the family whose van had become a lesson in gravity. Bishop crafted the route like a composer. Fox argued for a scenic detour that would add 20 minutes and 3 miracles. Gravel promised the best BBQ at the turn point, which meant everyone else should bring antacids. Jaxon slid into the stool beside her and studied a map that had been folded and unfolded enough to qualify as a friend. "You're part of this," he said. "Not a question. A simple truth." She looked up. "I don't know when that happened." "Somewhere between the night at the station and the day you stalled a Sportster without apologizing to it." He traced the route with a grease-lined finger. "You writing your own?" She hesitated. "I'm not ready." "You're never ready," he said. "You just go when it's time." "Is it time?" "Almost," he said. "You'll know." The day she rode alone. It was small when it happened. That's how most big things are. Tuesday, blue air with a promise in it. The lot behind the garage was empty except for Grace and the mural's shadow. Jaxon tossed her the key like it was a truth. "Take her to the stop sign," he said. "Turn left. Bring her back. Don't overthink. Don't underlive." She put on the helmet. She breathed. The engine woke, and the world with it. The clutch met the throttle like a hand finding another in a dark theater. She rolled out, kept it smooth, kept it simple, kept it honest. At the stop sign, she turned left, like she had always known how. The road rose a little, dipped a little, told her a secret. When she brought Grace back and killed the engine, quiet rang like a bell. Jaxon didn't clap. He didn't whoop. He nodded, eyes bright in a way that refused to become tears. "You just changed your life," he said. "So did you," she replied. "The ending, that's a beginning." The sun came later and left kinder. The garage door opened most mornings like a blessing. Strangers arrived and left less strange. The mural weathered and deepened, like stories do when they settle into their bones. One evening, they planned another memorial ride for the brothers who weren't there to argue about the playlist. The convoy stretched long and thunder true. Anna rode in the middle on Grace, helmet visor up, wind writing a letter on her face. Jaxon rode to her right, the steady orbit of a man who had learned both how to lead and how to let someone else take the lane. They climbed to the ridge where the town made itself small and perfect. Helmets came off, names were spoken. Wind accepted each one and carried it somewhere safe. Bishop said what needed saying. The rest was silence and engine heat. Jaxon turned to Anna and studied the person the road had made. "You did good, Anna Brooks," he said. "So did you, Jaxon Maddox," she whispered. "You made me believe again." He smiled, small and real. "That's what angels do." They stood while the sky undid itself into orange and then into the royal blue of promises kept. Engines rumbled alive, not a roar now, but a heartbeat. The convoy rolled into the fading light, red tail lamps a necklace of embers across the valley. Down below, the station that once held a missed train glowed in memory. On a good night, if you stood by the mural and listened hard enough, you could almost hear a whistle fade and the answering chord of bikes saying, "Not this time. Not while we're here." If this story gave you a little more faith in steel and second chances, subscribe to Voices of Darkness. Like the video, share it with a friend and drop a comment. Real angels still ride. Help us reach our 1,000 subscribers goal. And if you love the Hells Angels and the Brotherhood they stand for in this story, share this video now. Prove your love. Sometimes real angels don't fly. Sometimes they rumble down the highway on steel wings. Real angels still ride.